Introductions. My name is Hans Derkach. I'm currently sitting at the office of the Friends of the Nature Coast, Friends of Home Assassin and Nature Coast. And the purpose of this video is to do an interview with my friend Louis, my compatriot, who's a veteran of World War II, and for some reason other than I was in the Navy in World War II, we have an interest to record Louis and to keep for posterity some of his experiences, because as we know, the historians tell us we don't want to experience them for ourselves. We'd rather Louis experience them and leave it at that. I can come up with what my interest in World War II is, because I'm of the generation that's right behind Louis. I was born in Germany in 1945. I was born a week after victory in Europe, and all my dad, my uncles, everybody that I know of at that time fought in World War II. They either fought for the Germans or they were Russians. My dad was Ukrainian, same Russian. My uncles were in Stalingrad. World War II was an earth-shattering event. And my grandfather, he was in World War I, which was supposed to be the Great War, the war that ends all wars, but it didn't. It just set the stage for World War II. So here we are in a time of great power conflicts, World War I, which ended in disaster. Nobody won that one, and everybody got mad, and that was it, and went straight into World War II. The Japanese attacked the U.S., Pearl Harbor. Louis was involved in that. I was not yet born, but I was on the way. The European theater was winding down. The American, it was the, I forget where I'm going with this, because I'm trying to explain my interest in the war as such, because it started me out in life. We didn't come here to the U.S. till 1951. Between 1945 and 1951, everybody we knew was a displaced person, somebody that survived the war but had no place to stay, had no food to eat. They were just refugees. So that was most of the people that I knew during World War II. That's why it's important that I think that we comprehend some of what was going on. Everybody was waving the flag during World War II because we were attacked. Pearl Harbor set us up for that. Germany declared war on the U.S. right after that. So it was a world war. And I was a soldier for, I don't know, over 42 years. I wore a lot of uniforms. So I know how important attitude is in the military. And the attitude of the World War II veteran, to me, was simpler and better than anything I've observed after that. I can't speak for the Korean War veterans. It seemed to me like they went into war ill-prepared and not really all that enthusiastic. And then when we got into Vietnam, and everybody knows kind of how that turned out. And then we had the Cold War, and now we have stuff heating up again. And none of us, 3 generations of us, don't remember a war. We have no experience. The Iraq veterans are in their 40s and 50s. The Afghanistan veterans are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. They're all having children, and we don't remember what people like Lewis went through. They don't remember Vietnam because they weren't born yet. So that's my interest in having this interview, because I think we should understand what was going on during that period. Lewis.
Yes, sir.
Could you tell me your full name?
Louis Unterman.
Louis Unterman. And where were you born, Louis?
I lived in New York, and I was born in the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
Right.
What year?
1925.
1925.
Long time ago.
What was going on in 1925, Louis?
Well,
they were still in the
yeah,
middle of the
we
Depression.
Were in the middle of I lived through the Depression.
Oh, okay.
I could do a whole thing on the Depression.
That's right. The Depression started in '29. You were still a toddler when the Depression started.
Right.
Okay.
But I was there when it ended also, you know. I went through the whole thing.
So did you go to school in the Bronx, Louis?
I went to, you know, for 3 years, and then my family moved to Long Island, so I finished up in Long Island.
Okay. Did you do high school in Long Island then?
I certainly did, yes.
And did you go to work after high school, or did you work during high school?
I worked since I was like 13 years old.
Okay.
I was always working.
Typical
yeah. That
30s.
Era.
Yeah, typical 30s stuff.
Right.
So what kind of work were you doing?
I guess the beginning of my work, I had a little thing that you could pull along, and I used to stand outside.
A cart.
Yeah, the stores, and when the ladies came out with bundles, I said, "I'll take your bundles home," and they'd put it on, and I'd take them home, they'd give me a nickel, you know.
Oh, yeah?
That was the beginning.
But you were making money.
I always made, I told you, since I'm maybe 13 years old, I was always making money.
So you provided income for the family, or did it all go into your pocket, Louis?
Whatever I got went to Mama.
Okay, so you were adding income to the family, and
we needed it.
And at this time, you guys were living in Long Island.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and that's a bit of a haul in Queens, which is still a big haul to the city, but those places are so big by themselves.
Yeah. Listen, when I went to college at City College, and it took me about an hour and a half from home to get to,
and it was
all subways. I had to keep changing.
Okay, and it was, what school?
CCNY, which is?
City College in New York.
City College, right.
Yeah, and you started when?
I started, I guess, it's a good question. I must have been, when I graduated public school, I can't come up with it, Ellie.
You went straight into college?
Yeah, right into college. And in fact, I started, in those days, it didn't go from the beginning, anytime, like I started in January, so I started college in January. And I had a year and a half of college before I was drafted.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were drafted. But in that year and a half, what did you study, Louis?
I was engineering.
Engineering. What kind of engineering?
I wanted to be an electrical engineer, and that's what I was studying.
That was the tip of the sword. Then that was the where all the discoveries in scientific discoveries were in electronics and electrical stuff, wasn't it? At that time? Yeah. True. So that was the whatever you call it, the foreground. And so Pearl Harbor was in December 7th, 1941.
Okay, I'll tell you, you want to know what happened. At that time, I was working at a store that was a delicatessen and also food. That, you know, one
grocery
side,
store.
Yeah. And I was the fellow that did all the cleaning and washing and everything.
The factotum.
Yeah, and we had a very, very nice guy that did all the cooking, and he was black, and he was from somewhere because he had an accent, and I happened to be with him, and the thing came over the radio that that area is being bombed, and he started to cry because he apparently on his route to get here, he lived there and he still had family there. And I said, "What are you crying?" I didn't know where.
In Hawaii?
People didn't know where it was. You know, they said, "Do you know what that meant?" No, we didn't know where that was. You know.
Yeah.
So he apparently had lived there, and that was very, you know, it really got me. You know, I didn't know what it even meant.
Well, yeah, because at that time, Pearl Harbor,
Hawaii
no
one knew what Pearl Harbor was.
Yeah, Hawaii was just, it wasn't the 50th state, it was just some place where ships landed,
So
and
he
we
started
got
to
pineapples.
cry, and I figured it must be pretty important, you know. And I was still young. I wasn't yet ready to go into the service or anything.
So, and what was the drafting age? 18, correct?
18.
Yeah, and you were at 17 during...
15, 16 at that time, yeah.
During Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so...
But I said I always worked, so...
So you were still working and still going to school?
Yeah, well, I did it on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah.
Until you got drafted when?
Okay. I got drafted in January. I wrote them down so I don't screw up. And I'll tell you. Yeah. I'm trying to think.
January of 42?
Yeah.
Or 43?
No.
have a book there.
I'm trying to think. The war ended what year?
46.
So this was 45.
Okay, so
45.
it was
And
January
in
of
January
1945.
I was drafted.
Okay.
Now I have a little story to tell you about that.
All right, let's hear
it. Well, first of all, I wanted to, as soon as the war broke out and I was 17, I got my mother to sign, and I was going to go into the Army. And I went down, and I was very small. So the guy looked at me. He says, "Before we start, because it takes a long time to, you know, let's put you on the, see how tall you are." And he says, "You can't get in. You have to be 5'2", and I wasn't 5'2". So sent me home. So now the next thing is, as soon as I was 16, I got drafted. Same thing. I went in, and before they put me through, they said, "Let's put you on the scale." I wasn't, so they sent me home. But they sent, in 6 months, they sent me another letter, come down, and I was accepted.
They changed the requirements.
No, I had grown.
Oh!
I made 5'2", and I came out of the service at like 5'4". I kept growing at that time. So at any rate, now how did I get in the Navy? I'm telling you, I was drafted. No one got drafted to the Navy. But when I was in school, I told you I was studying engineering.
Right.
Soldiers, I mean, they were actually officers, used to come all the time, at least once a month, and speak to all the students, and they wanted them to please take. I have the name of it. There's a certain drive, maybe. Yeah, they kept saying, if you take the Eddie test, we will, instead of you going to the Navy regular, you'll go in as a officer, and when you graduate from that, you get your
rank.
What is the Eddie test? And no one knew what the Eddie test was, but I found out years later that it was about, you know, we had very, very, very early things on the top that were turning around. I
Damn.
could see way off into the distance. And, you know, Japan never had it. In the whole war, Japan never had that. They had to actually get there where they could see someone. So that was that. And it was so new that they needed engineers to fix it and make it, you know. In fact, we had one guy on our ship. He was always being called to other ships to fix it because he was a genius at that. So that's what that was. And they say if you take that test, you will go in as an officer. Okay? So now I'm drafted. I go through the whole thing. Takes hours to go from. First of all, you have to take off all your clothes and you hang them up. And then you are naked for the next like 3 hours, 4 hours, going from place to place to place to place to place to place. And I still look very small and very young, but I had been working up at the boar circuit, working for the summer. This was the summer, and but they take, all of a sudden I'm in front of a guy, and he says, you know, I don't know if you should really go into. I said, why? He says, you probably will miss your mother. I said, I don't miss my mother now. I'm working, you know, away from home. I haven't been home in 2 months. Okay, you're in. So I'm in. Now we're ready to leave and go right to an army camp. And as I'm walking out, there's a sailor sitting at a table, and he's reading the papers. And as I see him, I said, I can pass the 80 test. He says, who said that? Who said that? I said, what the hell do you know about the 80 test? I says, I'm an engineering student. I have 1.5 years of engineering. He says, give me your papers. I give it to me, stamps it. He says, you're in the Navy. So he says, now come here. I'm going to give you the test. So now, remember, I'm naked. And he puts me in a room about this size with tables and chairs for taking the test. And he gives me the test. So I'm sitting there naked, and I take the test, and I bring it out to him, and he says, be at the station, you know, tonight, like at 7 p.m. He says, we're taking you off. So I come home, my mother is still crying because they took me away. She says, oh, I know they wouldn't take you, you're so small, I know. I said, Mom, I'm in the Navy. What do you mean you're in the Navy? You went to the, I'm in the Navy, and we have to go back at 7 o'clock to the railroad. So my mother, my father, my brother, my uncle, not my aunt, my grandma and grandpa, all of us get in the subway, and they take me to there, and they're all crying as off I go. And that's how I went. That's how I went into the Navy.
Now, this is the station in the Bronx?
No, in
New York City.
Yeah, New York City. Yeah.
So So you passed the test that he gave you to go in the Navy.
I didn't say I passed the test. I said I took the test.
Okay, so, but otherwise you would have been in the Army.
That's
because
right.
they
Everybody
already,
was in the Army. I was probably the only one that day that went into the Navy.
They had already approved you for the Army. You just got into the Navy because you stopped at his desk and said,
I could pass the, and he got all excited. They needed those people. Believe me, they didn't have enough of them.
So here's an interesting question. Did they do any testing after that?
Okay. When you're at the place for about, 12 weeks is whatever it takes.
Yeah.
They kept putting you in different areas to see if you liked it, or if you would like, what you would like to do.
So where did they send you?
So I'm telling you. So at the end, now the last week, they're going to be sending you somewhere. Everybody has to go. There's an officer, and one at a time he come and they ask you, what would you like to do? And if it's something that they can do, they send you there. Otherwise, if you have nothing, you go right on the ship, So they say to me, I sit down, and the fellow says, and what would you like to do? I said, sir, I took the 80 test. He says, you failed it. That was my joke. This is true. This is true. I almost fainted. What do you mean I failed? What do you mean I failed it? You failed it. Now what would you like to do? I said, I don't know. So he says, yeah, I understand that you were, studying. I said, yes. He said, I have a good job for you. He says, now, I have to tell you what it is, because I always screw up the name. Yeah. It's called fire control. Now, fire control sounds like putting out fires. It's not that. It's firing the guns. He says, fire control takes care of all the guns, fixes them, and anything goes wrong. He says, that would be perfect for you. I says, okay, I'll go fire control. So that was my life.
Were you required to learn how to swim if you didn't know how?
That was very important. Like the first week, they take you to a room, a huge room, with a huge pool, and this is what you had to do. You had to go up on a high thing and jump off. That's the first thing. Some guys couldn't. They went up there and they came down. You had to jump off, and you had to swim totally around it, and at the end, you had to get onto a little thing that was floating to show that you could get on. Then you get off it, and you could get the hell out. And when you did that, you never got back on. But if you didn't do any of that, every single day you had to go for training. Every single day. They never. So, and I want to tell you, there were guys on ships that can't swim. I'm telling you, this is a fact. Because I don't think they just hold you forever. They just send you off anyway, but they want you to swim.
Well, at one time, Lord Nelson said that only 20 people in the British Navy knew how to swim.
That's right.
So,
that's how they did it.
So you learned swimming for sure. Did you learn like when you think of sailors, you think of tying knots?
Tying knots is very important. They had to learn every single knot. And in the Navy, there's a lot of knots to know. And there's one very important, the most important one is the one you tie around yourself in case they want to pull you in. Because if you make one that goes pull, it'll split you right in half when you're being pulled. So you had to learn that one, because that one wouldn't pull you in.
Could you think of anything else you learned in basic training that you can remember?
Well, they gave us a gun with nothing in it. We never shot it. I want to let you know we never.
But that was an M1, right?
Yeah. But we had to do all of same thing. If you saw the Army walking, that's the Navy. We had to learn everything, and we had to always be going in front of people to make sure that we're doing everything right. And that was very, very, very important. And they did it by the tallest to the shortest. So guess who was in the back?
Oh,
me,
Lewis.
And I was walking like this, to keep up with them with huge steps.
Lewis, you didn't have drill sergeants. What'd you call your instructors?
Idiots. No, we had one guy, and he was a very tough guy. They do it deliberately. They run the hell out of you,
Well, yeah, that's how they do it.
Yeah,
but
they do it.
What did you call them?
I don't remember what we called them.
I mean,
no, I don't know. No.
Okay.
I don't remember what we called them.
And
we had one guy.
Okay, so he didn't have any helpers like in the Army.
No.
You've got a main guy for a platoon, and then he's got a couple helpers. So you've usually got 3 trainers working with a platoon of 50 or more guys.
One guy.
One guy in the Navy, and we don't know what to call him, but we'll find out later. So
you're asking for something that's 50 years old, 60 years old. I don't remember.
Well, that's cool. I'm not. Okay. So at the end of the training, the officer would take you in his room and he'd say, "What would you like to do?"
Yeah. So he says, "You're going to do that."
Okay.
So now,
fire direction control or fire control, which is aiming and shooting the guns.
Right.
Okay.
So
you went to another school for that.
The last 2 weeks
was that.
Well, that was when I was at the school. When I finally got to the school. So I'll tell you the story of the school. All of a sudden, they get for that school, and it's in San Diego, and they had enough guys, like 25 guys, and they had 3 people in case someone didn't make it. So I was the third. So would you believe it? One day I'm the second. The next day I'm the first. And when they're ready to leave, they call, Unterman, you're going. And I went on that group, and everybody else, everything was packed and everything. I had to quickly pack everything. I was the only one carrying all of his stuff because everybody else was packed. But the guy that didn't show up, they had already appointed him to be the main. So I at the last second, I was the guy that was running everything. I had to sign all the things.
Class leader.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the way it works, Louis.
So I went off. My mother and father didn't know where the hell I was because you couldn't talk to anybody. Everything is secret. You know, you can't say anything to anybody. All of a sudden, they're not getting any notes from me or anything or hearing. And I had to tell them I'm in San Diego, and that was, I think, 12 weeks. That was very, very long thing. And,
well, you had to learn ballistics and
everything.
The machinery.
We had to learn every single airplane so we don't shoot down our own planes. And they would do it like that, and you had to say what it was. You had to pass that sucker. You had to know every plane so we don't shoot our own planes down.
Right.
And the last 2 weeks was shooting. And we shot every goddamn gun from the little teeny ones that you do by yourself to the next one and to the big one.
Like a 5-inch or...
We shot every one of them for 2 weeks. So we did know how to shoot every gun. And what was it? You know, because we were going to be the guys that fixed it if anything was wrong.
Right. So you had to know everything about the guns.
Right.
And the machinery connected to the guns.
But that's what we learned.
But you didn't learn anything about actually fire direction. I mean, as far as the fire direction control, okay, we're here, the target's here, and we have to aim the gun at this direction.
That's all in the machines. It's in the
okay,
machines.
So you didn't have to...
Even the one guy sitting, he has one of those, believe it or not. Now, most of them don't even use it. They go like this. They don't want to use it. But everything, and that did the forward, you know, it's going very fast, so you can't shoot at it because you're going to be over here. So every one of those has something on it that
keeps you from
figures,
shooting your own ship up, for one thing.
No, but figures where you should be.
Yeah. Okay.
Every one of them.
Like aim ahead of the plane.
We had to keep those things going. That was our job.
Yeah. So can I ask you about how do you think that the guys, yourself included, felt about the war at that point? That was
everybody
44.
was pro-war. Everybody. During World War II was not like anything else. Everybody wanted to be in it. Everybody was enlisting in it, you know, not waiting or anything. It was another whole thing.
Well, there must have been at least a couple of guys, though, that said, what am I doing in this?
Well, there's always those guys.
But,
But, you know, there were almost like no young people walking around the street. If you saw them, there was something wrong with them. Because
okay, if they weren't in uniform, they were looking on, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Pause. Pouring out, and we did bring our umbrellas in.
I just have to check this every now and then. So this has got 10 minutes now.
Oh, 10 minutes.
My husband likes to talk.
It's good.
He doesn't remember yesterday, but he remembers this.
Okay, so the training was in San Diego, and it was 12 weeks?
Yeah.
12 weeks, that sounds like
it was a long time.
Plus you spent a lot of time marching back and forth and here and there to classes, to chow.
Right.
Yeah, did you get any time off while you were there?
You didn't get any time until like the last couple of weeks, and then they'd let you go out for the day. Otherwise, you never left. Yeah, the last couple of weeks.
Did you make it out?
Yeah.
For a day?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
We went into the town and we walked around.
Drink.
No, I don't think we even were drinking. Yeah.
So the people there in San Diego was pretty good to you?
You were talking about San Diego. I thought you were talking about... No, San Diego everybody got one day, either Saturday or Sunday. Everybody, and yeah, I loved San Diego. I loved it. Yeah.
So you had a good time there.
Yeah, I love San Diego.
And the training was hard, but not suffocating, right?
The training for me was very easy because they're taking people that didn't have any of this education that I had.
Right.
So to me, it was like, no, I was helping everybody. Everybody would come to me.
So you were in your own element.
Yeah.
Some of them
I
were
knew
totally strange to them.
Yeah.
But everybody, it was, like you say, the war effort was popular, so everybody was putting 100% in, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
you didn't hear any griping.
Yeah, so it must have been a good environment, because I can remember my training, and if you weren't crabbing and bitching, you weren't, you were asleep. All right. So you finished your training in San Diego.
Right.
Now.
Okay, so they gave us 1 week to get up to San Francisco and to a place. It was outside of San Francisco. Just be there. You got 1 week to get there.
Like in Oakland or something?
I don't even remember the town.
Okay.
It wasn't Oakland. It was further.
All right.
Yeah, and they gave us
a week to get there. You could have taken the train in one day, right?
So I took it. Now you want me to tell you a story
Sure.
about my train? I get on the train, and it's like a whole day to get from
San Diego to...
From Los Angeles. No, it was Los Angeles to San Diego. It's a whole day.
You mean to San Francisco?
To San Francisco. So I sit down to a nice gentleman, elderly gentleman, and we start talking. And turns out he's an actor, and he is the head of a group that's going up. That they've already been practicing in where do they say?
San Francisco.
No, down below.
Oh, L.A.
Yeah, L.A. And now they're going up there to open.
Okay.
So this was so interesting talking to him about everything. And he says, do you want to see any of the girls? I said, sure. So he calls over one of the girls, says, I want you to meet Louis. So I took her to dinner that night, and I was very close to her for my week. I told you, there was a week. They were all staying at one hotel, so I checked into that same hotel, and every day I went. That my thing was to watch them, do it. They practice every day. They knew me when I opened the door. They said, "Come on." They knew who I was, and every day I watched the show. They were practicing. And they were going to open, but it wasn't open yet. They were practicing that. That's where I spend my time. Was in there with the girls.
Seems to me like you had better week than other folks did.
Yeah, well, you have to. I was just lucky. I sat down with this man.
All right, let's put you outside of San Francisco. You're there to be assigned to.
So all right. So I'm now they where I said that we had to be. This is a place you're going to go overseas.
Okay.
That's what this is. And it's just a question of every day you look at the thing and see if your name is there. If it's not there, you can go into town.
It's an assignment board.
Yeah.
You're getting assigned to a ship.
Yeah, well, they'll tell you where you're going.
Or they'll ship you to a ship. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
So I was there maybe 2 weeks, and there my name appeared. And, no one knows where they're going, but they take everybody that's going here to a place, and we know where we're going already, because you get what do you call it, that you put over your bed? What is it?
Oh, the mosquito netting.
Yeah, mosquito netting, and you get everything. You get
well, you get fit out for for Asia.
You're going to the
jungle, whatever the
jungle. You're going to the jungle. So we figured we're going to where we went was to Philippines, and it was in a very, very small town in I have it written down and everything, but we had the big place. Everybody's there. It's just waiting to get on a ship. Everybody.
Okay.
You know.
So
but every single day we had to do something. They didn't let you just sit there.
So you got an assignment on the board.
Yeah. I still didn't know where I was going.
Was the ship there?
Yeah. Well, I had to wait every day and look. My ship was out. Was
in the
working.
Philippines. It was in the Philippines.
Yeah. No, my ship was
where
doing,
the job was.
Yeah. Was doing.
An assault, island assault.
Yeah. And it was doing another
Mission?
Invasion. Yeah.
And I had to wait for that ship to come back. I didn't know what ship it's going to be or anything. But all of a sudden, one day, my name is, I was there about 2 months, I think almost 2 months, waiting for my ship. And all of a sudden, I didn't know what ship it was, but my name is there. And they take me and they bring me on a ship.
Okay, so the name of the ship was the
USS Rocky Mount.
Rocky Mount.
Now, it's a mistake because all those ships are named after mountains. And the idiot that wrote it out made it, instead of, it was supposed to be the USS Rocky Mountain, and some idiot made it the Rocky Mount. So no one really knew what kind of ship it was. But it was really named after Rocky Mountains. But it was called the USS Rocky Mount.
Where was the ship when you got on it?
In Leyte Gulf. Leyte Gulf.
Well, okay, then let's back up a second. How did you get to the Philippines?
I was on a ship with maybe 5,000 men going overseas.
A transport.
Yeah, transport. And it didn't go straight, it went south. We were below the
equator.
The equator, and it made one stop. And we had a bunch of ladies on, probably, whatever they did. What do they call them?
The waves.
Waves,
Yeah.
And they got off there, and then we went up to Philippines and dropped us off.
So did you have to put on the hula skirts when you went below the equator?
No,
they
didn't let us off the ship then.
No, I mean, but didn't you do that celebration?
Oh yeah, no, you had to, yeah. But the thing is, I told you we were 5,000 men. They couldn't do anything with 5,000 men.
Sure.
But for their own men that hadn't crossed yet, we were all watching.
So you were initiated into the sea god?
But I got my big thing. You know it, my big picture of it, of me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doing the celebration.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see if I get this right now. You went from San Diego, or L.A., San Diego. You got your fire direction training there. Then you went to somewhere near San Francisco to get your
waiting to leave,
to get your deployment orders.
Right.
And then you got on a troop ship to Leyte Gulf.
29 days.
29 days
from
across
there till we hit
across the South Pacific.
We got off. Yeah.
And Leyte Gulf is in the Solomons, right? No, it's in the Philippines. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Leyte Gulf is in the Philippines. Was this after MacArthur took the Philippines, right? Yeah, okay.
Otherwise we wouldn't be there.
Yeah, well, they still had...
Leyte Gulf was one of the biggest, things that they ever took. I mean, it's like D-Day,
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It
was
huge.
Yeah, well, not only that, but there was quite a few naval engagements during the Philippine incursion because they sent what was the name of that huge Japanese battleship, the Choo-Choo or something?
The one came down, and before it got to us, because it was coming to, to Leyte Gulf,
guys up.
but before it got there, they sunk it.
Yeah.
They had so many things shooting at it, so many planes and
Yeah.
submarines.
So that was an exciting time in the Philippines.
Yeah.
It was all hot. I mean,
but I'm going to tell you, while we were in the Philippines, now we were in just little, what do you call it? Huts. Yeah, and with no floor.
Tents, right? Yeah,
just terrible. But the war was still going on. They didn't all just surrender. They were all over the fucking place.
Was this before Okinawa or after?
Oh,
I mean, you went up the Marshalls. You ended up at what's that island where they used to land the B-29s that couldn't make the mission back?
Yeah.
But that was a big. You had. Was this before Tarawa? Was this before or after Tarawa?
I think it was after.
Okay.
But at any rate, I want to tell you that they were still running around, the Japs.
Yeah, sure.
And I'll tell you a story. One day, all of a sudden, I see a guy, a native, walking, holding a head. I said, "What the hell is that?" They said they give him like $25 if they bring in a head.
Oh, the Japanese.
Yeah, he was walking with a head. I said, "Holy shit!" Yeah. So at night, every little one got a gun in case they're going to attack. So we had one guy that was the most highest rate. I mean, I was like nothing. I was a seaman first class, but he had a rate. So he got the gun. Well, he was so scared. He was shaking. He never held a gun because they don't teach us how to shoot a gun.
It's amazing that something as monumental can be chopped up into little things and organized, as well as the U.S. government organized World War II. You're living testimony to that. I guess the question we want to end up with is, how do you think your experiences in World War II, or rather your experiences in the Navy, have affected you as you've had a long life since then? How do you think it affected your attitudes? How it affected your fortunes? And how it affected how you raised your kids, or how you did anything?
Well, I think that it was a very, very important thing for anybody that was in the war. But I think it absolutely changed me, absolutely, from a kid with no, nothing to worry about, to worrying if you're going to live, you're going to die, and what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's how we lived, and we lived like on a ship. I don't know if it got better in these days, but it was pretty bad. We all had little teeny things that hung from the ceiling, and that's how we slept. And food was from a year or 2 years ago that they carried with them. It was a whole other thing, but I would not give it up for anything. If I could do it all over again, I would do it all over again. I think it changed me. And we did reunions for over 50 years. And we met and we loved each other, all these guys. Every time we met every year, it was just wonderful. She was in the last few that we had. And it was like nothing else that I could ever come up with.
So it had a very, very profound influence on your life.
Changed my life.
So that wasn't actually my last question, Louis. My last question is, pretend this is a kid that's going into the Navy now. What would you tell him based on your experiences in the Navy?
First of all, the kids going into the Navy now are seeing the world. They're taking them to beautiful places, and They love it. They really do love it. Everybody I speak to that's been in the Navy in the last 10, 20 years just loved it. Not everybody gets on a ship, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Half the Navy probably is still in America, you know.
And considering the SEAL teams, half the Navy thinks they're in the Army.
Yeah. So no, I think that they would have a very, very good time. Better, I mean, consider that some kids don't know what to do. Then should I go to school? Should I go to work? And go to the Navy. And when you come out, you'll know what you want to do.
So you would consider it an education
Absolutely.
for anybody that goes in the Navy. And would you require that? Like, would you restart the draft, you think? Because it's so beneficial.
Yeah, you know, when we were in Israel, and we saw that everybody, women for 1 year and boys for 2 years, everybody,
well,
and it made a difference to them.
There's one group in Israel that doesn't have to serve, and that's the guys with the ringlets.
I know, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm talking about those that do serve.
Yeah.
And because when a kid graduates high school and goes to college, they're babies. They're babies. You can see half of them don't do it in 4 years, they do it in 6 years. That's common, that they're all straightening it out because they're having a ball. They're just fooling around.
Yeah.
But the kids that go to into the Army for 2 years, they come out, they're serious. They want to get whatever they're doing over. They want to get married. They want to have families.
They want to get on with their lives.
And I think it's the greatest thing. I would like to see it in America. Forget that we have any war that we expect to be in. It would be very good for kids to go to service for 2 years.
Well, thanks for this interview, Louis, and we hope you don't have to go to war again.
Well, if they ask me, I'll go.
I'm Hans Sturkach, and this is the second day of interviewing Louis Unterman, who's a World War II veteran and has been a volunteer and yoga instructor at the Friends of the Nature Coast for years. And this is brought to you through William Connolly and the Friends of the Nature Coast, for which we're deeply appreciative. So the other day, we discussed where Louis was when World War II started and when he joined the Navy and his subsequent training. We've discussed some of his travels, but we haven't completed it yet because he's not yet at his duty station, which is where he's headed, because when we left off, he was in San Francisco waiting for a boat to the Philippines. And this is approximately mid-year 1944. Is that correct, Louis?
No. No, it was already 45. When did the war end?
45.
All right, it was 45.
So this is the middle of the year, 1945.
No, it's like the beginning of
spring of 1945. He's in just outside of San Francisco, right?
Right.
Waiting for a boat, which is what seems what a lot of sailors.
A ship in the Navy.
Oh yeah, a ship, and they're all named after people I don't know. So, Louis, at this point, you already know where you're going, right?
Well, not really. They didn't tell us until we got there, but
it's one of these.
We were just going, and as I told you, it was 29 days that we were on the water, and we had no people with us, so they were doing a lot of zigzagging because there were people were being killed by the Japanese, that were all over.
Yeah, the Japanese still had submarines out.
So we we were quite south. I told you we went over yeah, and we finally got to Leyte, Leyte, and they let us off at Leyte, and then
Did they at any time tell you what the destination was?
no, we no,
So
never.
let me ask you questions about the 29 days.
Yeah,
So, and it was a troop transport, a ship
yeah.
that was designed
We had
and
about
built
like
for.
5,000 people on board.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this was a big boat transporting a lot
Yeah.
of people
Right,
from mainland U.S. to
Right.
the theater of action.
right.
And how was the food?
Food wasn't too bad, but to feed that many people,
Yeah,
basically, it was going almost 24 hours a day. You had to get online to have breakfast, and it was a long line. No, you had to stand up. There was just you got your plate and you just stood up and eat and got out. And by the time the last guy got through, they were starting lunch already. So the food wasn't bad.
for industrial preparation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, in fact, one day everybody that was there was doing something. So one day I was with the food, helping, whatever had to be done.
Right.
I was
KP.
doing, and the guy was, the guys that I saw that were making the food, they were really making some nice things. They were okay. Yeah. Yeah, but where the food was lousy was when I got to where was I going?
Philippines.
Philippines, and then we had one food. What was it?
Spam?
Spam. We had it for breakfast, just like fried.
Yeah.
With terrible eggs, which were fake eggs.
Yeah, sure.
And that was what we had for breakfast.
Powdered eggs.
Awful.
Powdered
For lunch,
eggs and water.
we got this is not a joke now. We got a sandwich.
Spam sandwich.
Sandwich. And for dinner, they would make it look nice, and they'd put something on it to make it look nice, but it was spam. So we ate spam and I was there a long time, and spam 3 times a day, and that's what we ate in there. But on the ship, it was pretty good. Ships have pretty good food.
Well, this might interest you that spam is coming back in Europe.
Oh, they loved it. They
Yeah.
loved it in Europe because they had nothing to eat. They had in like they had only so much food a month that they could have. I mean,
Yeah, it was ration.
yeah. So when they could see, that was wonderful. All the GIs used to come to visit with spam, and they kissed them and hugged them because that was food. That was meat.
Sure.
They had no meat.
Well, and there's
very little meat.
there's that old rumor though that spam includes a little horse meat. Is that correct? Has
I
that
have
ever
no
been
idea. I
verified?
would hope not. I would hope not.
So you of course spent a little bit of time on the ship for 29 days. You spent a little time writing letters. How often did they pick up the mail?
Until we got to the Philippines, I guess.
They didn't?
No. Wait.
Well, I know, but it's funny because that was a point of interest with me when I was in Vietnam is those sailors were getting mail at least twice a week. They were getting and sending mail off at least twice a week because a big effort was made to make sure that they sent and received letters. So they didn't.
I would say when I was on the ship, because I never got a letter when I was in the Philippines. I guess they didn't know we were there. They were hanging on to it till I got to my ship. But on the ship, maybe once a week we would get mail. About once a week.
So, how did that work? How did the chain of command? You're in a ship carrying basically passengers from point A to point B, but you're all in the military. So the ship,
all sailors.
Yeah, all sailors or Marines.
There was a few Marines, and there were a lot of women because they were
nurses,
and they were taking them over. But most of them got off at our first stop, which was, I can't think of the name. It was below
Subic Bay.
No, it was way south, and they got off there. But when we continued, it was all the guys. Yeah.
So, what was the chain of command for the ship? You had a bunk?
But we were like 4 high, and I had the top one, and I mean from here to here. I had to like sneak in to get in. God forbid you try to stand up, you break your head, you know.
So it was tight quarters.
And it was hot. It was hot. No, in World War II, there were no air conditioners on ships.
Right.
It was just hot. Even when I got on my ship, you know, in the Philippines, we were hot. I mean, very hot.
Well, you went under the what's that? The equator, right?
Yep.
And did you do the sailor routine?
I told you there were too many of us to do it, but all of us got a beautiful thing that we went over. But
a certificate.
We watched the newer guys that had never been over. There's always a few that had never been over, and they really gave them hell. I'll tell you that.
So you were assigned to a location in the ship. So you were part of a group that was located in this
I don't know if I was part of a group. All I know is I was in this way down, probably 4 levels down, and the books were 4 high, and I was the top one. That's all I can tell you.
So how did the ship commander say, okay, tell everybody lights out early? I mean, was there a chain of command that went from the ship's personnel to the passengers?
Usual on the Navy is they make announcements.
Okay,
the lights are going out. The lights
on the loudspeakers.
Yeah. So they didn't tell us, you know, anything particular. But we all got I had everybody was getting things to do. Sometimes I had to be like in front of a place and just make sure no one steals from here. That was for the whole day. I had to stand there. Some day I was working in the kitchen, and some days we actually sweeping and things like that. They put everybody to work.
Well, those are 3 universal things: guard, KP, and police call. You know, everybody knows how to do that.
We didn't have much time just to
hang out. Yeah. So, did you have books or anything to pass the time?
I don't remember having any. I don't know. There probably was some on.
So, did your affection for the Navy suffer because of that?
No, I like being on the water. I always loved it. Yeah, I loved the trip.
So, okay, you went to Lady Gulf.
Right. They left us off when we were in Leyte, which is a big city.
Yeah.
And from there we had to take a little boat and took us over to the next big place. And then there was buses waiting to take us to where we were. And we were in a very small city at the very, very tip of this island, very tip. And because there was water all around us, you know, and we just had, you know, places to sleep. That's all, and it was on Earth.
On the ground, yeah.
On the ground, and
you didn't have no sleep bags.
No, they always supply you with a bunk, and we bring our own. In those days, we carried our own stuff. We had our own
sheets and blanket and pillow.
So we had our own, and we also had to keep the bugs away.
Oh, the netting.
We had our own. We brought them along, and because when we woke up, we would look up and there would be
thousands.
Unbelievable things above us that would have been attacking us during the night. So even our ships, our feet, we would have to shake them out because they were filled with bugs. Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And another funny thing is for peeing, they just took a long thing and knocked it into the ground and put the thing over it, like, you know.
Yeah, like a funnel.
Yeah, a funnel. And they were all over the place. That's where you peed. And God forbid Yeah. God forbid you had to go to the bathroom. That was the worst. It was just
A trench.
a trench and you just took a place next to the next guy, and it was awful because when you took off your pants, the bugs were all over, big flying things all over you while you were trying to do it. It was really bad, very bad. And I was there about a month, you know. You get used to everything, but
Now,
for instance, before we left the ship, everybody was recommending take some ice water because you don't know when you're going to drink again. So we all took ice water. Oh, we were given these things like a water thing before we left. Yeah. So we all fit, and we had a nice ice water. So we get to our place, and all of a sudden they bring the water. The water comes along in a big thing. Everybody yells, "The water's here! The water's there!" And everybody's running for the water. So I take my water, I spill it out, and I go over and I get hot water. That's what we drank. Everything was hot. So anyway, one day, I don't know where the hell I was doing the day, because every day they put us up place terrible that we had to work at. I mean, really work. We worked for that. No one just sat and did nothing. And I come back, and the guy says, "Oh, you're leaving tomorrow. You're leaving what?" The guy said, "Because there's a big thing every day tells
a roster,
and I'm leaving." So I had to quick get myself all ready. And early in the morning, it took us, again, the reverse of what I did.
Yeah.
They took us to a place, and the next day a boat came and took us to our boat.
All right, let's get that fixed for a second. This is the northern Philippines.
No, more southern Philippines.
More southern Philippines.
Yes.
Now, if I remember my geography correct, the Philippines is right there in the heart of the action because this is 45, then Okinawa was ongoing at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because they just fought up the Solomons and the Marshalls, and Okinawa was the focus, and China, Burma, India theater was going way, way, way. Stilwell was still general there. MacArthur was in charge of
the South.
The Philippines, yeah. And one of the naval admirals was in charge of the main group that was going toward Okinawa, right?
Yes.
White. I don't remember his name. So here you are in the middle of this huge final push, maybe, to liberate all the gains that the Japanese have made in the past 4 years, since 41. They bombed Pearl Harbor. They took
almost everything.
Took the islands from the Dutch, the English,
everything,
and took all of Southeast Asia.
We had to take them one at a time,
right? Because they took it a lot faster than we took it back.
Right.
And you took a ship from where you were at in the Philippines to where your ship was at.
Lady Gulf.
Lady
Gulf is a huge place, and there were, I don't know if I told you, maybe 500 ships there, because we were getting ready to attack Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, I told you, we had a date that we were going to go, and so all the ships were there, and they took us. I mean, I tell you, when we went like that, because there were ships everywhere.
Yeah. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ships.
Right, getting ready.
And they're all big.
Well, there's no little one.
So, and that's when you went to your ship.
Right. That's when I got on my ship.
Which was?
The USS Rocky Mount. It was a ship. There were only 8 of them in the Navy. And it was, for one thing, to carry the people that are going to, it was generally an admiral, sometimes sometimes, from the Army.
The command group.
The
command group.
Yeah, and they had their own place, their own spot on the ship. Their very top was for them. If
Right.
there's one or two or three in their own place and they had a place to walk, they would always look up, they were always walking. That was their exercise. And we didn't speak to them.
So the Army has a term for it as TOC, which is Tactical Operation Command.
Yeah.
The Navy, they have a ship for it, and it's not a ship that commands other ships. It's a ship that commands the invasion forces that goes to that island or wherever it might be.
Right.
And what was the Rocky Mountain doing prior to this, before you got to it?
They had just come from another place where they made 3 different invasions. My mind, I can't tell you where.
So was that after Guadalcanal?
I was waiting. That's why I was on that damn island so long. I was waiting for the ship to come. So it came and it landed and they took us. There were about 20 of us that were put on a boat. They kept giving people a chance to go home, and then they had to replace them. So we came on. Yeah, about 20 of us got on that ship.
So, and you knew that the next thing that ship would, or maybe you didn't know,
No.
that the next thing that ship was going to be involved in was...
Well, after a while I know.
The invasion of Japan.
Yeah.
Well, once you got on ship, the scuttlebutt would have told you what was going on. Yeah. All right. Louis, what I want to do, and I don't know if it's possible, but what I'd like to do is backtrack a little bit for the Rocky Mountain. So, was it involved in, say, as early as Guadalcanal? Guadalcanal was in the last part of 41 into the first part of 42.
It had made 9 invasions when I got on it. Okay. And it had done 2 very far down.
The Solomons, the Solomons.
Yeah, and then it made 3 up, where the action was.
At that time, which would have been the Philippines.
Well, not yet.
Oh, the Marshalls.
Yeah.
The Marshall Islands.
Right. We did the Marshall Islands. And then we went to, I can't think what it was called, that's what they were before I got on. That's what they and now what happens is you get a particular guy that's going to be the head. Has to be at least an admiral.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Maybe a higher admiral, but someone. And he runs it. Now, he comes on with 300 guys that do
staff.
nothing. Yeah.
Staff.
Yeah, but I want to tell you what they are. They all have tick, 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 tick.
They're communicators.
Yeah, and we had one. That's why our ship was different from other ships, because at the bottom of our ship was a place for 300 guys to be. Usually there's a little place with like 3 guys that do.
Yeah.
We had 300 guys that did it.
So plus
he talked to every ship, to every airplane.
Right.
He talked to everybody that landed to know what's going on. So that's what they did. They told everybody what to do. Our ship. It was a very, very, very important ship.
Well, I can imagine. Did it have a lot of antennas on it?
It did.
Yeah. You talked to.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not confused. I don't think. I know that the ship is the command for the assault wherever that's going. Right. So all the ships that are containing men, machinery, or supplies for that assault come under its direct command.
Right.
And the aircraft protecting it, plus all the ships that are providing fire, the batteries.
We lived kind of close because we were shooting at places that they said needed taken care of.
Right.
We were close enough to be shooting at the shore.
But so that would involve ships of all kinds of sizes, from destroyers all the way to battleships, correct?
The battleships were further away because they could shoot very far. Yeah.
Yeah, the size of, they're shooting Volkswagens.
And don't forget, they came in on these little boats, when they landed.
Right.
And we were taking on people that were injured, we didn't have a huge place to do it, but they were taking them on to us.
But you still had to, if I remember, well, you know, I'm a TV child because most of my remembrances about World War, or my information about World War II, either came from actual history books, or from people that talked about those times in those places. But I know on TV that, like in the Philippines, there was some tremendous naval battles because
it was huge. It was as big as D-Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was as big as D-Day. People don't know that. The entire Japanese Navy,
yeah, what was left
down.
of it.
Yeah, and we beat the shit out of them, you know.
Well,
they came in 3 different directions.
But
this way, and this way.
Yeah, but it scared the mung out of a couple of U.S. admirals.
Oh, yes. Well, they come. That's the whole story that, you know, that whole.
So I guess what I'm getting at is, here's a chain of command that's involved with invading that island, right. And then here's a chain of command that's involved with protecting those people that are trying to take that island from Japanese Navy air or surface vessels, right? So that's a different command, and I can see where when they talk about the fog of war, where that would occur in something that massive, because now we're talking about what, 400 ships involved in this, right? Yeah. So this is quite different from my experiences.
Yeah.
So did you were in fire direction control, right? You served.
You didn't ask me that story. Now, you know that I studied, you know, that I told you I was 12 weeks studying, you know, fixing guns.
Right.
Mostly for the aiming of them, you know, So.
Well, then were you a mechanic, a gun mechanic?
I was, well, they didn't call it that, but at any rate, that's what we learned. We learned how to adjust every ship, because it was different kind. I tell you, there were kind that one guy, there was a kind that 4 people, and then there's the big one. And we knew each one of them how to adjust, so they're always doing the right thing. Because, you know, when you're shooting at a plane, you have to be way in front of it, you know.
Yeah, because it's going 300 miles an hour.
If you aimed at it, you're always behind it. You had to be before it. That's what we did. Now I learned how to do that, right?
Right.
Let me tell my story.
Okay.
I get on the ship, and there's a guy there. You know, what is your name? Unterman. Looks it up. Okay, take him to. So they take me and they bring me down, and I'm with the seamen. The seamen are the guys that clean, you know.
Oh, ship maintenance.
Yeah, they're the guys that do this, the chipping and
plus, you know, they paint.
Yeah,
plus they
paint. and they have me there. So I look around. I says, "Where's the? No, you're a seaman." I said, "No, I'm not a seaman. You know, I'm a fire control. That's what it was called." "No, you're a seaman." So I'm really pissed. So I go up and I find the officer that's in charge of firing, and I said, "Sir, there's some mistake here. I'm a fire controlman, and they put me with the seamen." He says, "Son," he says, "there are 11 fire controlmen before you waiting to be fire controlmen." He says, "You will never," he says, unless this you know, thing goes on for 100 years, you will never be a fireman. I mean, you'll never be a fire controller. Just be happy you're a seaman." And that was that. I never used it. Never used it. So I was a seaman. So I did everything. You had to sweep, you had to clean, you had to chop and fire. Everything that was on the main, right?
Yeah.
When you had to lower something so people can come up and down, we did it. You had to pick it up, we did it. boats that they had, we had to lower the boats, we had to pull them up again. Everything that was on,
Yeah.
we did.
The actual ship itself,
So
yeah.
I was the same. Now the other funny thing is, when you go in the Navy, you get one stripe. As soon as you come out of boot camp, you get 2 stripes. You know, when I came out of the learning everything, I got 3 stripes, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a little higher than the average guy, a little higher. So, but when you get on a ship, you're not wearing your outfit. You're wearing, you know, crap.
Yeah, you're wearing blue shirt and black, dark blue pants.
I'm on there, and everybody's just treating me normally with my group, and we get to when we were in the not in Philippines, when we made to where was it, Ellie, where was I where I had all my good times? Shanghai.
China,
We got there in the summer, we're wearing whites. Whites don't show anything. But as time went on, because we were there like 3 months, they changed it to blue. Now the blue shows that I have 3. So put it on, and the guy in charge of me says, "Come running over. Why didn't you tell me you were first class?" I said, "What is first? What do I know? You know, this is not my thing." Right, so I now am in charge. I'm in charge because I don't know shit about anything, you know, and I'm in charge because I have 3 and everybody else has 2. So I had to be in charge of lowering the boats, because I had 3. And I never learned that, you know.
Well, you had to learn it in a hurry.
That's how the Navy works.
You learned it in a hurry, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to learn it. Yeah. So, but I was in charge. Like they say, take 3 men or take 5 men and do this. That was me. Believe me, I didn't know anything.
Well,
that's the Navy.
I think all the armed forces are like that. But, you know, it's amazing, but it takes an army or a navy to move that much men and materials in a fashion that is programmed for one thing and do it kind of efficiently. If nobody ever claimed to be efficient, but move it efficiently.
At any rate, I enjoyed my time in the Navy. Really, even if this happened, even though I was trained to do one thing and I never did it, and I was just at the lowest level, basically. And I was there for a year on that ship.
Was there any difference in your creature comforts between the fire direction people and you as a seaman?
No, they were in a different place.
Yeah, but was there? Were they getting better food or anything different?
No, we all go the same. Only when you become
an officer.
Yeah, an officer. Then you go to a different spot. But all the regular people, even if you're first class, second class, third class, you know, you're still eating with us. So it's only when you become an officer that you have a different place to eat. The food was good on the ship.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you have regular mail?
I told you we got mail about once a week. Yeah.
So did you write?
I wrote all the time. Yeah. You know, in those days they had special for anybody in the service overseas.
Yeah, you had an APO number. You didn't need a stamp.
No, but to write on. And you just wrote on it and folded it up and turned it in. And no, you didn't have to put anything on it. It was free for the.
But they censored your letter. They read it, right?
Oh, damn right. you couldn't say anything that cross it out. You couldn't say anything about where you were or what you were doing. You didn't say I'm well.
Did you ever get any letters from home that were censored?
From home, they don't censor. Only going to home. Yeah.
So you went to Shanghai for a while.
Yeah, well, when the war ended, we were sitting there a couple of days, and all of a sudden we get the word, we're going to pick up an admiral. So the admiral was in, I can't say names, where did we fight after that ended? The first big fight.
Korea?
Korea. It was in Korea. He's up there because he went to take Korea. You know, someone has to, when the war ends, someone has to go and take over.
Make arrangements.
Yeah, so he's up there. So we stop at Manila, because we had to take on a lot of stuff, because we weren't, you know, we were running out of everything. So we filled up, and then we went to Korea, and our admiral got on. And from there, we went to Japan. Now, we were going this way, now we had to go all the way down and around. So we're going to Shanghai. And we went there, and I was there three months, Shanghai. And when we left, the admiral was still there. They just moved him to another ship.
So you were on the Philippines. You were in the Philippine Sea somewhere during VE Day?
Yeah, I was. I showed you the picture. So you know, it was in Lady Gulf with all these ships.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, did you know anything about the bomb?
Well, the bomb, we heard the president make that speech that we just, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we heard that, you know, and they played it for us, so we knew about the bomb. You know, no one really knew what the bomb was, but, you know, he made the speech that we dropped, you know, something never been seen before, and they expected the war to end, but, you know, they had to drop another one before they got the real, we better do this.
So, the emperor said, okay, we're done.
Right.
And how long was it before you knew that it was over?
When the emperor said it was over, then that's the whole thing that I bought. So, you know, that I showed you, where is it? Oh, Ellie has it.
Oh, this thing, yeah. Okay.
That it was very funny that they showed the movies several times a week, and the movies were on the open deck, and everybody would either sit on the floor or bring something to sit on. I used to grab a thing that I could sit on, you know, and but this particular day when they were showing the movie, I had to be on a gun, and the gun happened to be behind the screen.
Oh, so you couldn't watch the movie?
I had to be at the gun, because in case all of a sudden planes were coming over, someone has to be there on a gun. So I was on a gun, and I'm watching the movie because I could see it from the back, but I couldn't hear it. I didn't know what was going on. And all of a sudden, next to us, we had someone tied up, another ship that was tied up to our ship. And they took on a group of people doing, you know, that they send to give everybody, you know, like, they send people around to do shows.
USO?
Yeah,
USO.
But they're not on us. They're on the ship attached to us.
Oh.
And all of a sudden we hear screaming coming from that ship. We figure, you know, they're making you, but they're not that. And all of a sudden, if you look at this thing,
yeah, I saw
they start shooting up in the air. Now, you can't do that during the war. Everything is, you can't have any lights, you can't have anything. All of a sudden, lights are going on. Oh, what the hell is that? And then, by everybody talking to everybody, we find out the war is over. So I left my place and I ran and grabbed, because otherwise I would have been in, you know, they would really give me something if I left my spot. But the war was over. I didn't give a damn, and I grabbed, and I just was with all the guys screaming and jumping. And,
yeah, you look pretty happy in this picture.
Yeah. So that's when the war was over, and they were going crazy in this whole. I tell you, there were 300-400 ships. Every one of them was shooting things and screaming and carrying on. It was quite a day.
So how did that work out? Nobody got to go home right away? But
no. Now I always try to explain this. If you're in the Army, they take the whole group and send them home, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in the Navy, the ship, has to have people.
Yeah.
So they don't send anybody home, you know. So little by little, like some guys that really had you know.
But you guys didn't have a regular rotation. You had for the duration, right?
So they couldn't do anything. They couldn't send anybody home. All they could do was we had to run the ship.
Yeah.
So finally, I tell you, with the 3 months in the Philippines and rather in Shanghai, and we're going home. And well, I told you it took us 29 days to get there. It took 39 days to get home because we were really further away. And we did make one stop at
Hawaii? Midway?
No, but
Are you going the other way around?
Now I'm going straight home. No, where was it bombed in the first place?
1 minute, guys.
Were they bombed in the
Where did the war start?
Pearl Harbor. That's what I said.
So
Hawaii.
we stopped at Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
And we took on a lot of stuff that we needed.
Yeah.
And then we continued, and
went into San Francisco.
And I was in San Francisco till I was discharged. So when we got home, first of all, a lot of the guys that were old timers were immediately sent home. They had to come back, you know.
Yeah, okay.
Like
so they went
2
home
weeks.
on leave.
Yeah, on leave. And guys like me that just came on recently, I had to wait. So we came home just before Christmas. So those guys went home for Christmas. And when they came home, another batch went. And finally, about the middle of the beginning of the year, I was sent home for 2 weeks. You get 2 weeks.
Okay.
For people that were overseas, for like me, for more than a year, you know. So when we were in Japan, no, where was it? You keep telling me where it was.
Shanghai?
Shanghai.
Yeah, Louis, you gotta stop for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I mean, you know.
All right. Okay.
Drink it. Drink.
No. Let him ask me questions, and we'll try and
Drink it and then put the cap on. You know how you're supposed to drink water.
go.
Take a drink first.
Yeah.
I might just leave that all in. You know, it's caring wife, bring some water, all good.
Here's an original picture from I think a yearbook that these guys that had you guys had a reunion every 4 years or whatever.
No, every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
Well,
and for about 50 years, we did it.
And here's in this an article, it says with ships. The crew of the Rocky Mount with ships in the harbor rejoice over the news received at 2200 on August 10th of 1945, VE Day, and after this, you guys just kind of wandered around, and then you went to the west coast of the U.S.
No, well. This is when the war ended. I tell you, we went to here and
to
here,
Korea,
and then
to Shanghai.
Shanghai, and from Shanghai we went home.
Okay, so
A long time.
So August, September, October, November, December.
Yeah, we were. It was just before. What is the big thing that happens in September? What's the big?
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. We were on the ship going home at Thanksgiving. If you want to get the time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we were on the ship at Thanksgiving, heading for America.
So did everything kind of break down at this point? Now that there wasn't a war to fight and you had all these people in uniform, did the promotions go on as like it did before and
everything was the same. Nothing was different. As I told you, we couldn't get off because I don't send anybody home on a ship. You have to be home, to get off. And once we were home, then the guys were really leaving like crazy, because there was a thing. After the war, everybody had a certain number of months that you were on. That was a thing. Whether you're married, that was a thing. Whether you had children, that was the thing. And that's what determined when you went home. So some of the guys should have been home by that time. So a whole bunch of guys were sent home. And then they, little by little, they were going home. And finally I went home.
Yes.
But the ship still had to have people.
Yeah. I had a question. There was a lot of conflict after VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, because from my understanding and what I've talked to people was that everybody assumed they were going home tomorrow.
No.
Well, as you said, it doesn't work that way, because all those people still have to have a way home. It has to be organized, and of course, some general has to give it its okay. But so here it is, 2,200 hours on August 10th. Victory in Asia, victory in Japan, victory over Japan, and I can imagine that was quite an event.
Yes, it was, because we were ready for the biggie, you know.
Yeah.
And we didn't know anything, you know. After all, when I'm a great reader of anything about World War II, and I've read many books about the invasion of Japan as would have happened. And they gave the one that was going to lead it was to, what's his face?
MacArthur?
MacArthur was going to lead it. And MacArthur said, and it's in reading, you can write it, they expected 1 million casualties. 1 million. I mean, because they could tell by that last thing that we had, the last big thing, that we lost so many men.
Yeah, Okinawa was horrible.
We lost so many men, and that was nothing. That was nothing.
Well, compared to the main islands,
compared to the main island, where everybody was going to have a gun or something.
So there was a fair amount of dread going on about the invasion of Japan.
Yeah.
So when the bomb fell, and then the second one at Nagasaki, everybody was intensely happy that they didn't have to go through the invasion of Japan.
They're right.
So yeah, sometimes we fail to understand that, because most of us, the ones that are still living, think of warfare as something to do with Vietnam, which was really a backyard brawl compared to something like World War II or the Korean War.
Well, we lost 400,000 men in World War II. That's a lot of people. 400,000.
And that was just the deaths. That's not the direct casualties.
Yeah, I'm talking about dead.
Yeah. So that's more than we lost in the Civil War, if you count both sides.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know that. Yeah.
So I don't want to jump right away to Korea, but you were right at that. This is 45 going into 46. Europe was starting to depopulate U.S. soldiers and airmen, and victory in Japan had occurred. Was there any kind of political mumblings at that time about this thing with Korea? Was that even on the map at all?
No.
So, I mean, by this time, just about everybody and their cousin was sick and tired of war, weren't they? I mean, because so many people were involved in it.
During World War II, every man, I should be boy, because they took us at 18. So, the war, when you see movies, I always show Ellie, or everybody looks like they're like in their mid-20s or 30s. Not true. Everybody was 18, 19. If someone was 20, 21, they called them daddy. We had no one in the 20s. Everybody was 18, 19. That's how the war was fought. So,
well, actually, to my mind, this war set a standard, I guess, that people on the street expect wars to run like that. But this was a success I think by accident, because If it hadn't been for Pearl Harbor, that thing would have just gone down in kind of a spiral and got ignited some different way, but it would have been a different situation. And I don't think the American public would have been so enthusiastic.
No, the American public did not want to go to war. You know?
Right, I know.
In fact, everybody thinks we declared war on Hitler. We didn't.
He declared war on us.
You know, people have to get that straight. We didn't. We never declared war on him. He declared war on us because he had a thing with Japan.
So, do you have any memorable experiences on the boat that you might not have discussed?
Well, Ellie, I have a favorite story. If I can tell it.
Sure.
In a few minutes. I didn't tell you, but before, when we were going to
Singapore.
you go up Yangtze and then you make another turn to another.
Yellow.
Yeah. So we're going up the Yangtze, and all of a sudden we get word there's a typhoon coming, and we have to turn around and leave because you can't be in a narrow place when
with a big ship.
So we turn around and we just head out. Just go head out for 3 days. 3 days. I mean, I have this written down, but not by me. We were 3 days in this typhoon, and it was horrible. So unfortunately, my place during when the ship is moving is where they steer from, and I was the bridge, and I was there to send out for different things,
So
like,
you were a runner.
I was a runner, like when it says you hear 2 rings, 3 rings. I had to go around and come back and say everything, all is well. So at any rate, I have to go there. So, and the ship is, this is accurate now. It was high, it was 135 miles per hour. 135 miles per hour. And the ship it's a big ship, 30 degrees each way. And I can show you this I'm not making it up. So the ship is going like this, and like this, and like this. And I have to go up. And now remember, I told you I'm way down, I have to go up. And when I open the door, which I had with all my strength, that...
Ton of water.
Yeah, not only water, but I mean, I could... so I finally make it to the place where I could climb up and get to there, because it was like 3 flights up. And I had to open the door, and I go in, and I'm there, and I'm happy. And all of a sudden, the guy running it that day, because it's never the head. They take turns on different people doing it. And he comes over to me, and he has the
binoculars.
Hanging on him. And he takes them off and he puts them on my head, and he says, Unterman, he says, take these up to the, what do you call it? Now I start climbing up. Now all I have is things put in like every...
rungs.
Yeah, rungs. And I start going up, and I get about halfway up, and all of a sudden my feet blow off, and I'm just flying like this. And finally I get my feet back on, and it says, I can't go any further. This is nonsense. And I had weighted about 100 pounds then. I was very skinny. I go down, I work my way back up, and I walk in. It says, he sees I still have my thing. I didn't give him. So he says, Unterman, I tried to bring that. And I said, sir, I really tried. I got about halfway up, and I almost blew off. And I came down. He says, you goddamn, you go back and you bring that up. I said, sir, I'm not going to die today. And I put it on him. And now up there's about 6 people. They're looking everybody's eyes looks, and he's looking at me, and he's turning red, and he finally walks away. I could have put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leg irons.
But he walked away. It was so stupid. The guy up there can't see anything. You couldn't see the tip of the ship, and they have someone up there to do what? To kill himself. So stupid to have someone up there when it's 135 mile an hour winds blowing.
Well, I'm looking at the boat, the Rocky Mount, the ship. I'm looking at the ship, the Rocky Mount, and it looks about half the size of one of them big cruisers that we.
Oh, it probably is.
Yeah, which is a huge ship. I've taken enough cruises to know that those ships are huge. This is about half that size, which
Right.
makes it very, very large boat. I'm looking at the very, very small people on it. So I'm assuming that anything that's going to make that ship dip 30 degrees and then 30 degrees the other way is got a heck of a lot of wind and pushing a lot of water. So I understand but I can't for the life of me figure out why anybody
You have
would
4
do that.
minutes. You better try and end this up.
Okay.
Come on, conclusion.
So you got back to the U.S. You took a leave. How long were you?
Back, yeah, my parents didn't know I was coming, and I walked in. I almost dropped dead. My mother was crying, and they invited all the neighbors. They had a big party that night.
Well, they were glad to see you,
I had
Louis.
been gone over a year, you know.
So the memorable experiences, the typhoon outside the coast of China. Did you learn anything that you'd like to pass on to modern sailors or soldiers
I
or
would
anything?
say if you like the sea, I really recommend it because I loved being on the ship, and I loved when we were moving, when we were parked somewhere. You learned all about where you are. Like I had a wonderful time in Japan, and I had a wonderful time even in San Diego. No, where we were is like where
Lady Bay,
yeah.
Lady Gulf,
What you're saying?
Lady Gulf.
No, when I got back, we
San Diego.
yeah, San Diego, and that was wonderful. But I loved it when we were out.
But this is your first experience on big boats, big ships.
Of course. I mean, my first appearance anywhere. I'd never really been out of New York. I was a kid. I was 18.
Look, this is what he was. He was a child.
Yeah,
I was 18 years
I
old.
could,
18-year-old
and it's the same one that I could see here with that. So,
He was just a little kid.
and this is kind of a leading question. I don't know if it makes sense to you, Louis, or not, but how has it affected the rest of your life, your experiences in the Navy during World War II?
Well, I would think that wherever you might be, whether you're in the Army or wherever, it's good for you. You come back a different person than you left. You leave as a kid and you come back as a person, as an adult. And I wish that we had such a thing in the United States where everybody had to go
So a
into
draft.
service. Yes.
You recommend it.
Yes.
Well, so you think that service life is good for any and all?
Yes.
Well, that's one of the things that this interview kind of addresses, because the political and geopolitical situation, the chances of us getting into another situation where we send our children in harm's way seems more probable than not. So in a way, warfare is a huge endeavor, and I've always looked at it from a grunt's point of view, but a sailor's point of view is probably the same as mine. You wave the flag and it has meaning, but once you're in uniform for a long time, the meaning becomes profound. And it does affect the rest of your life, and there's no
Changes
getting
you.
around it.
You leave as a child and you come back as a man.
Well, I've never been tempted to say that, but you do. You come back experienced, and you're not so naive, and plus you've had big experiences with people your own age, your own grouping that you never could have had except reading a book. I know you hear it all the time, but I'm proud of your service, dude.
Thank you.
Yes.
Even
yeah. So
if
wear
you
your
were
hat.
just a squid.
Tell him to wear his hat.